So I will definitely delete that one. Okay. So let's start this lesson, and this lesson is from week 10, first lesson of week 10. So let's look at where we are now. Assignment 3 is due this Saturday, and it was posted a while ago, so I assume that it is mostly done or about to be finished. Assignment 4 will be posted at the next week from today, and assignment 4 is related to cloud programming, Android programming using cloud, essentially, not cloud programming, Android programming using cloud. So it will be posted next week, either, most likely end of the week, so it's second lesson, Thursday. The reason is that we need to have reasonable introduction into using clouds of Android programming, and I will post it ahead of the time before I explain it completely, in hope that you may want to look up it yourself, but I will tell by the time when I cover all enough information, you'll have at least 1 week to do assignment when everything is covered. How would I address this? It will be 2 examples. One is coming from Marina. She works for Google, and she wrote example of Android program that is using Firebase Cloud. Firebase Cloud, it's a part of Google Cloud. It is just one dedicated part of it, designed for mobile development. Target mobile development. So that will be covered first. The reason for it, because that program is to-do list, and I'm asking you shopping list to write shopping list, write application. So I assume that you will reuse most of the GUI from your assignment 2. If something is missing, you write your own. I explicitly do not want you to copy her GUI because you need to develop your skills. You can definitely look how she did it, but don't copy-paste. You can borrow ideas, but do not borrow copy-paste code, because skills are important. And copy-pastable skills are not really building skills. It's just, it's a skill to understand somebody else's code, definitely. But I want you to practice with it. Also, you had assignment 2, so you can use your own code, not her code. But definitely logic from the program that deals with transferring data to cloud and getting it back is nearly the same. Because logically, it wouldn't be very different to maintain to-do list and maintain shopping list. Okay? Definitely, you would have to store different data. But of course, you will have to edit it, right? But you can borrow main ideas from her code. So this is the reason why I want to explain it first, her code, so you can start working in your assignment. What is definitely missing in that code? It's only one list, right? And it is not shared in any sense, although she plans to make it shareable between users, because users may share to-do lists. For example, if it's job-related, they may do it. Or to-do lists for family, also shared between family members. She doesn't have it implemented. Currently, last time I checked it, it wasn't. Maybe she just pushed a new version, but I didn't check it yesterday. My program is somewhat simpler in terms of multiple lists, because I'm doing math trainer example, and there is no logical sense to do one quiz by 2 different people at the same time. So it doesn't involve any logical sense in sharing between users. But having multiple quizzes per user makes sense, right? So I will add that feature to Cloud Code, right? Not to add, I will write the code using that, or using GUI that already have. So what we will have today, and I will explain my cloud code for this program after her cloud code, because in her logic is simpler because it's one list. My logic is more complicated because I have more than one. But it would be simpler because in the sense, then her planet idea for the future to create it shareable. Right? And so it is intermediate step between her existing code and her future code. Okay, it is multiple lists, but not shareable between users. But it is shareable between different devices of the same user. So one user can start quiz on one device, continue on another one. Definitely, I need to have a GUI for that, and I do. Yeah. So what do we have today? A mass trainer example with multiple quizzes in the same program. So this is for today. So I will explain how it works. It is using local database. It is using a local database as before, room database, like in your assignment 2. But it is definitely extra step in complexity compared to assignment 2, because in assignment 2 you had only one list in it, right? In this case, it's multiple things, right? Because quiz is a list, essentially a list of problems, except I add additional logic to check for answers. So quiz, it's a list of problems, but I also have a list of lists. So I have a list of quizzes, and quiz is a list of problems. So in this case, it's a more complicated data structure, right? It is a list of lists, okay? Do I have users in it? Yes, I do, but it's only one user because logically it's only one user per app. But I don't have any login logic because you open up, you already logged into your device. If we store data on a cloud, we need to log into cloud because cloud stores data for multiple users of the same app. And so it is extra piece to think about. Also, there is also a piece related to login. This is why I need to explain my version of mass trainer, because code is newer than her code, unless she changed it yesterday, so I don't know. So I switched it to a different navigation system at previous lesson in explaining that. So at the previous lesson, I explained it two navigation system in addition to what we already know. I explained it navigation system similar to what we use it, using strings as addresses, but using serializable objects as addresses between pages, right? This is how she did it in her program. Marina did it in her program for Cloud Code. So we needed to understand that. At least she did it, again, if she changed it yesterday, I don't know, but last code I'm aware, she did it that one. And also login logic is related to navigation system between pages, because you have login page, you need to make decision based on the login. So login system actually involves navigation system. And since navigation 3, it is the newest from Google, and it will already have release candidate 1, perhaps by the end of the course, it will be a stable release and new default way of doing it. I need to explain it because by the time when you have to do your project, like capstone project, it will be all around. So it is my logic of explaining navigation 3. At the previous lesson, I explained, and we video recorded. Today, I will quickly repeat it. If you want details, watch previous lesson. So this example currently is using navigation 3. It doesn't have login, although it has users logic in it. You will see that part. I plan to reuse most of the GUI when data is stored on the cloud. Similarly to your assignment 2, you will reuse most of the GUI in your assignment 4. I will reuse most of this in my code for cloud. I didn't finish that code. I'm working on it. Hopefully, I will do it. Okay. So it would be embarrassing if I wouldn't. Unfortunately, it is a couple days of work. So let's open this server code first. And I will tell about one thing that came up recently. It is kind of steps aside. It is mass trainer server code. I did minor changes, maybe renaming things. So it's not a big deal. So if you understood previous code, no difference. But I want to show one specific feature that we didn't talk about. So you can either reclone it or open existing code and pull changes. So I will open it mass trainer server. And update project. Cannot update. Has no tracked branch. Choose upstream branch. Okay, so let me check what is going on. It happens because I didn't push changes, I believe. So let's do the following. Okay. First, I will run it and see what happens. Okay, it works. So let me push changes because it appears like it's not, something is broken up there. So I will just create another project and link it to you so you can clone it if you want. So I will create project, new repository, and I'll call it explicit name mass trainer server Spring Boot, and I will add year to it so it is. Okay, so I will do mass trainer Android, mass trainer server, mass trainer servers, Spring Boot Kotlin. And to make it different name, I will do it with exact term name. Okay. Because it appears something broke, so up there, so I don't want to spend time figuring out. I will just create another copy. Main. Okay, cool. So let's do that. Copy. And I do main push. Cancel. Okay. Main push. That's not showing. Origin. Something was broken, so I will have to fix it. Just one more. Remote. It does exist. Okay. Git, new branch, new tag, branches. Base merge fetch update project. Where it says something like remote. Branches, rebase, merge, fetch, update project. Manage remote, here it is. I will delete this one. Yeah, and I'll create new one. Command V. Okay. Okay. main push. Seems like it's fine. Say view all branches. It is default branch, so cool. Next, multiple quizzes, push. Now we have branch multiple quizzes, and it is not default. Default is main. Cool. So I will pick this address and I will post it on Slate, so it is just different repository now. The reason is something broke with previous one related to my project, and it doesn't do it right. So in mass trainer Spring Boot, I will edit this link, and I will insert. Now it has different address. It has fall 2025 in the address. So if you want to clone it, do it, so you will see the same code. It is not essential for today's lesson. It is just essential for the reference if you want to look inside. So this would be a match of it, what I have it in my laptop, because I just pushed this into that address. So I created a branch multiple quizzes, and this server side doesn't care if it is one or more. The reason is that it will just generate random quiz. I call it multiple quizzes to match my code in the branch multiple quizzes. What is the difference? Remember that issue that when we send JSON, by default, it will create JSON based on namings inside of our files. And when we receive objects, it will create objects also by default. It will try to match names of the variables in the file. It's not always the case because, especially on the receiving end, if a name of the data field does not match a good variable name. For example, it has underscore, but for Kotlin, it's bad practice to have underscore in variable names. Or even worse, it has minus sign in it, like something dash something. So for these reasons, sometimes we need to switch name into different variable name. So it is the first thing I want to show. And for this, this case, it is artificial problem because when you need to deal with it, it won't be artificial. You just need to know how to deal with it. So what is difference here? Obvious difference. When you run it and when you go to address of this server, click this. This is a name. You see, now it is not number of problems camel case, like this would be variable name. It is with underscore. If you try to apply the direct logic on Android side without exact matching, you would have to probably create a variable with underscore, which is a bad idea. It doesn't follow naming convention. So how did I do it? Obviously, I did it artificially. I said in remote quiz, I just said name it this way, but it's actually this way. So it is artificial problem just to show that when data is not matching good variable name, how to deal it on Android side. Okay. So this is only like outside difference. Inside it is just renaming pieces. It's not, doesn't contain any extra theory. Let's now clone Android program. It's a good idea to reclone it because the same issue, it was multiple changes. So let's reclone it. So I go to this code and copy. And in Android Studio, I want to clone it. I will delete that code First, I will open it and, yeah, I will open it first and make sure it is pushed to GitHub. So I will not delete something which is not on GitHub yet. So everything is on GitHub, which is good. So I can actually delete it or clone it with different, I will clone it into different folder. So I go with clone repository. I paste address, Command V, but I will change this to in class because I already have a folder with F2025 in it. Okay, let's make sure that I don't have that folder in class. No, I don't. Good. And I do clone. Invite the Gradle configuration found. If it doesn't resolve, we will need to click on use built-in GDK. Close this one because this might take long. Okay. Default branch is main, but main branch is a little behind. Current branch is multiple quizzes. So I switch branch to remote multiple quizzes. Check out. Since libraries between main branch and multiple quizzes are drastically different, I need to synchronize project. Click synchronize elephant button to synchronize it. Okay. If we compare code to a code before, we just structure of organizing like stuff like in UI. I have package problem and I have problem list and problem details. And now I have quiz list and quiz details because I have multiple quizzes, so I have list of quizzes and list of details. And so when I switch it between single quiz to multiple quizzes, I had to rename a lot to make it clear where a particular variable belongs. Because ID could be ID of quiz or ID of problem, so it requires lots of renaming. Definitely when we address problem, like this one, we do it the simplest way to make it work, and we'll learn something. And after this, we make several additional steps by implementing additional features, and we will have to rewrite code. But it's always iterative process because when we write simpler program, we will learn something what we need to do for longer program. Okay, I wouldn't have any chance to write it for multiple quizzes before I wrote for one quiz, because it is always a gradual increase of complexity. Otherwise, it is far too much at once. So good advice, or maybe just bad advice, but in my opinion, good advice, when you address your capstone project, try to make it work in simpler case scenario, not final one. Do reasonable thinking at that approach, how you would do it in more complicated. But when you do in simpler case scenario, you will learn things that you need to know for more complicated. So although you have to rewrite code, you don't rewrite it from scratch, you rewrite existing code. So you reuse things that you already learned. So again, I wouldn't have a chance to write it for multiple quizzes unless I wrote it for one. Okay. Although it was major rewrite, like took 2 days, essentially. And it's not exaggeration, it's indeed took 2 days to redo it. Okay, so let's run it, and after this, go down to database level to see how this table created, how they related to each other, and go up, then up to view model. After this, go to navigation and see the rest of the GUI. And again, I plan to reuse most of the GUI for cloud version. This is using local database, using room. So first, let's run it. Oh, no, I will open devices first. Oh, no, first let's run it. I will run it on medium phone. This is our default device for now for this course. I didn't update version for different screen sizes because I switched to navigation system that is doing this differently. I switched it to navigation 3, which is new one. And it handles different screen sizes different way. GUI part is the same, but navigation is different. So it requires extra work to rewrite that code. So obviously this is different now. Home screen is different because we have multiple quizzes. There's no point of having button go to first problem because we have multiple quizzes, which problem to go, which quiz to go. So it is redesigned. It shows number of quizzes, which is 6 because it remembers what I did last time. When you run it first time, it will show one quiz. So one quiz is created by default. So in order to see that, I need to uninstall this program from the device. So I stop at it. Then I find it. Sorry. Cancel. I find the program itself, so which is mass trainer, and I do uninstall. Oh, it's stuck. I wanted to drop it here, but it didn't. So I have to redo it. Mass trainer and uninstall. Okay. So now I want to run it, and this I will see exactly the same thing that you see it when you run it. So it will be one quiz created. So what is for? In this program, I'm showing how to initialize database when database is created. It is useful skill to know because when you develop a program, you may need to have some data in order to see how other things work. And later you develop part of the program that adds data, like add problem, add quiz, or something like that. So in order to see how GUI works, it's a good, sometimes it's a good idea to already have some data in database before you have a GUI to add the data. Okay? So if we go to list of the quizzes, we will see quiz 1 that has 3 problems. So this is not done through GUI, it's not even done through repository, it is done through initialization of the database. So it's a programming skill. When we develop something, sometimes we need to already have the data to see how stuff behaves before we develop GUI to insert data through GUI. So this is where it is coming from. I will show where it is in the code. So that part is different from any other option to add quiz. This is quiz details page. So when we click on item in the quiz list, we'll get to quiz details. Quiz details has 4 first problem, list all problems, delete entire quiz, and home that takes us back. Home does not have any button here because when I navigate home, I clear navigation stack. So there's no way back. When you return to home, this is end. Okay? You return to original destination. This is how most programs behave because if we have a back from home option, our navigation stack will grow indefinitely. And it is just increasing data in the memory. So it's a way to deal with infinite lengths of the data. when you navigate to first page, you clear this navigation history. Typically, when you go to navigate first page, it will be some menu button to show the list of items where to go. I didn't create it at this moment because I have two, and it's extra work at this moment. So I have a list of quizzes. Currently, it's one, and I have settings. In the settings, I didn't change anything except I created back to home button here, and I added this button back that takes you to previous screen. In this case, it is home. Okay. So in the list of the quizzes, I have a list, and I have an option to add new quiz. Add new quiz works according to preferences inside of settings. So if I go to settings and I change default 10 problems to 15 right now, and go home and list quizzes, add list quiz, it will create a quiz of 15 problems. Okay, so here it is. We have a quiz of 15 quiz 2, which is quiz of 15 problems. Okay. So when we go to quiz, it will be details, and for example, first problem or list of the problems. In the list of the problems, definitely I need to keep trace of which quiz it is, right? Because previously it was default one, it is only one. Now I have to deal with that logic, okay? That it is quiz 2 problems, right? And I have link back to quiz 2, to details of that. For example, I keep answering some questions like 8 plus 8, it is 16. Okay. I click submit, go to next, then blah, blah, blah. Submit, it says invalid input, go to next. Let's give obviously wrong answer. 15, submit, it says wrong answer, try again. And now I go to quiz 2, it shows problems count 15, right answers 1, wrong answers 1, invalid inputs 1, not answered 12, and answered 3. So this page shows statistics based on query of the database. So I had to add queries in order to display the statistics here. So it's another piece to learn how to do these queries in Android, in the database, SQLite database using Room interface. Delete will delete the quiz. Home will take us to home. Okay. So in the list quizzes, quiz 1 has 3 quizzes, 3 problems only, and because it edits hardwired through typing code, I decided, okay, I'm lazy. I don't want to put 5. Okay, I did 3. And it also shows that it wasn't added through GUI. Because through GUI, you have smallest number, it is 5. I have option 5, 10, 15, 20. Also, when you go to list problems, you have this one, for example, and 2, it's also keep trace of quiz, obviously. Because it's not just a problem, it is problem from a particular quiz, so it makes logic more complicated. In particularly, next button of a problem 2 in quiz 1 should go to problem 3 in quiz 1, not another quiz. So as you see, navigation becomes more complicated. What had to be changed? In the previous code was a lot simpler than this one because I used problem ID, which is just problem number. That makes a lot of calculation and logic straightforward. For example, ID of the next problem, it is problem number plus 1. Right? You cannot use this logic for if you have multiple quizzes. Because problem 1 in one quiz is not problem 1 in another quiz. So I had to deal with different ID system. Okay, we could just join quiz number and make it string like quiz number, join it with maybe minus sign in between, and quiz problem number in that quiz. It's a hack, and it will make it simpler. But this hack will not work if data is on cloud, because it has some different ID system there. And that ID system is string. So I switch it to just randomly generated string for that. So it is not completely random. It is UUID that makes it unique. So chances of repeating UUID is extremely low, so people assume it is unique. So this program is using UUID in order to generate ID of items. So it is using strings. It is to make logic not a hack, although, again, having problem ID as quiz ID, some separator, and quiz number, some separator, problem number, would work. And it will make problem logic, it will make code logic simpler. It is not it's a hack which is not general way to address the issue. So I decided to go with general way, to have some string similar to string ID on a cloud, that it's not just quiz number joined with problem number. Right? You see, this is updating score here. So when we go to, say, I didn't answer anything in this. So, okay, let's answer it. See, it's updating score here per quiz. And in the list of the quizzes, it shows score here. So it's extra logic to display score in the list of the quizzes. Okay, it's also not immediately trivial, but you will see this in view model how it's doing it. Also, this was the original bug in the code, so I fixed it later, and it did induce some thinking about it. So it is actually deeper than it looks. Okay, where is the issue? Originally, I had a synchronization problem between data shown and data in database. Where it did arise? When you click Add New Quiz, what happens? I have two tables. I have quiz table and problem table. When I click on Add Quiz, it gets data about the quiz. And the quiz is displayed through flow from the database. And it tries to do a database query on problems tables, but it's not guaranteed yet that problems are done. So it was showing a wrong number of problems. Because I had two issues happening at the same, two processes happening at the same time. Trying to retrieve this data from the database and trying to create the data in database. So issue was that making the quiz and problems were not done atomically. So at some point, data was inconsistent. Like you have a quiz, but number of problems didn't exist yet. Okay? So it was showing current number of problems, which is not final number of problems, because database was still inserting problems. And it was such a kind of piece to think. So logically, we need to have it done at once. When we create a quiz and some dependency, in order to stay consistent, let's do it atomically. So I did it with transaction to insert it. Transaction guarantees that these parts are done on the database side before data is shown to other world. So it was inserting it without actually revealing it. And when it is inserted, after this it reveals it once. So that piece has to be redone as transaction. So creating quiz entry in the quiz table, done atomically with creating entries of problems in the problems table. So that was quite learning experience and scratching head why it doesn't work, and eventually fix it as it did work. So let's go from bottom up in the logic of this program. So far, we learned how to maintain one database table in using room. In this case, we have 3 of them. So let's look at the database. It is in folder data. I have a folder database. In the folder database, I have mass trainer database. So let's open that. I don't have this singleton pattern because now I rely on creating singleton by Hilt. I already mentioned that if we just ask Hilt to create singleton, you don't have to have that singleton magic right here. So what do I have? I have 3 entities: user entity, quiz entity, and problem entity. User entity in this program, it is pure decoration. It's not really used because data is stored locally, and the user that you have, it is just one user. So it is hard-coded. Why do I have it? I have it in order to have a GUI logic similar to GUI logic when data is on the cloud. But when data is on the cloud, you will have to deal with user, which is actually not hard-coded because it's user ID generated for particular user by cloud. So it is for easier conversion with data stored on cloud. So what do I have in user? So in entity, I have a user entity. Right? So it is ID, name, and email. They are not used anywhere in the program. Only user ID is used, and it is hard-coded. And so I created demo user. It will be some hard-coded user in the table, and it will be linked to other tables. And again, it is for consistency when data is moved to cloud, because when it is on cloud, I will have to deal with user ID. I have a primary key, which is ID, which is string. So ID is in this version all strings. In this particular case, it is hard-coded to demo user as ID. So it's not randomly generated for simplicity, because otherwise I'll have to resolve what is current user ID. Okay. So let's go next to look at quiz entity. And now it is something related to relation of the tables. Because I have a user with multiple quizzes per user. So it is one-to-many mapping. Right? One user can have multiple quizzes, but quiz can have only one user. So I'm not sharing single quiz between multiple people answering it. Okay. So it is one-to-many relationship. And this part, mapping with foreign key, it is absolutely optional. Why do I know? Just pure logic. What is for in general in the databases? It is when we create foreign key for the database, it is for extra consistency check by the database itself. so that you won't have broken addresses. Right? For example, I will not have like quizzes that are not owned by anybody when I delete user. Okay? So when we specify foreign key, it is consistency. We will get consistency enforced by the database system itself. If we don't, we can have a working code if we don't. But if our working code is broken, we will never know about it unless we face some broken IDs in some way. Okay? Okay. Database will not tell us that you have broken key unless your program encounters it itself. So in my original code for it, I did have foreign keys, but I didn't specify it in the database, and it did work fine. I added it later as a foreign keys in order to have enforced consistency. So database itself is checking my program interaction that I don't have stuff not owned by anything in the program. It will enforce that all quizzes are owned by some users, and it will also enforce that all problems are owned by some quizzes. So I will not like host problems that not belong to anybody, anything, and I don't have host quizzes that do not belong to any users. Okay. So it is extra enforcement, but it will work without it. Okay. So let's dive into it. Okay. A table name, it is as before, it is name of the database table, and this is related. Now, new item foreign keys, because we have more than one table, they can be related, and they related to foreign keys. What is foreign key from your database course? It is primary key elsewhere, right? Okay. So in my foreign keys of a user, no, in quiz, in user already, in my foreign quiz, foreign keys of a quiz, I have a foreign key, which is user ID, right? Because it's one-to-many relationship between user and quiz, and we implement one-to-many relationship between user and quiz by foreign key in quiz, which will be user ID. So here it is. I have user ID. It's a foreign key in the quiz that refers to user table. And this is how we specify it in room. Parent column. This is name of the user ID in user table. Child column. It's a name of that ID in current problem, a current table. Child, which is quiz entity. What is delete cascade? In this program, it's not used, but what would it do? It is extra feature of room itself. It's not feature of the database. When we specify key, we can in the room foreign keys, we can specify behavior, what to do when parent is deleted. So in this case, what to do when I delete user. When we say foreign key cascade, it will delete all quizzes of the user automatically. By default, it won't do them, won't do anything about it. It will throw exception because I specified foreign key, but it's not. It won't be linked anywhere. There is also option to set it to null. there is option not to do anything. So there are other things. There are other pieces for it, other options. But deleting of user is not done in this program because it's user one is hard-coded. But I use similar logic for deleting quizzes because quizzes are related to programs similar way. So what is index? It is done for optimizing searches. If I retrieve quizzes by user in many places in the code or often, it is better to tell tell the database to optimize it or do indexing by user ID of quiz entity because quiz entity is always often retrieve data from quiz entity. Data from quiz table is often retrieved by user ID, using user ID. So it is optimization for data retrieval. So what do I have here as quiz number? Quiz number, it is quiz number here. I don't store quiz name because it's an extra typing in UI, the user interface. I just generate name based on quiz number. Okay. Quiz number is not auto-increment, as you see, because there is no auto-increment option outside of primary key. Auto-increment is only for primary key. There is no such option for the database. So in order to reveal what is next quiz number, I have to do database query and find what is the largest number. So it is query related because it cannot be auto-increment. It is good and bad thing. A good thing that if I delete quiz 3 and add new quiz will be quiz 3 because it is not a counter stored in the database. It is query, result of the query. Unlike auto-increment on primary key, if it's number, which is just a column in some helper database table. Okay, so quiz number, it is based on the query. It is going through existing quizzes and finds largest number, adds 1. It means if I delete quiz 2, it will not create quiz 2. It will create quiz 4. Because this is determined by largest number, database query on largest number. So I go to quiz 2, delete, list quizzes. Quiz 2 is gone, logically, because it would be dumb to renumber them, right? And new quiz will be quiz 4. Okay. If I delete quiz 4 and delete quiz 3, next will be quiz 2. Okay, because it is looking for largest number in order to determine it. So this is the logic how I did quiz number. Okay. Our user ID, it is hard-coded. A problem count. So this is a trick. What is problem? Why do we need problem count if we can count problems through table by user ID? It is just optimization, but data needs to be consistent between query through problem table. Originally, I didn't have problem count in quiz. It was always by query from problem table. I decided to add this optimization, and originally it resolved this issue because this was right. Because first I entered quiz entity, after this was creating problems, by the time it was already there. Okay. Later I decided, okay, let's do it right way and do it as one transaction. So it is always consistent with number of problems. So it is guaranteed to be equal to number of problems if it is done in the transaction. In create add, it is just when object is created, it is new date, so it will be current time, date and time. So far, I explained it too, so let's look through, and after this, we will look into problems. So let's see what kind of DAOs we have related to them. In DAO, I have user DAO, which is relatively trivial, and it's not even used. Because I have one user, and it is hard-coded, so it is for future. Okay, insert user entity, conflict strategy ignore. What does it mean? Because if I try to insert user with the same ID, default behavior would be throw an exception. But this will just overwrite it. So it is just, this is done for extra learning. Okay? So that we have insert parameters, how to deal with conflicts, like inserting with the same ID, for example. This is get first user, so it shows how to do it. So it will be ordered by default by ID and limit 1, so it's only 1. This is also not used in the code. It is just potentially retrieve 1 if you actually use it. Okay. And this is retrieve by ID, user, entity, and suspend functions, because all of them takes time to do. It's not flow, where flow is given as empty object and data is inserted later. Quiz DAO is more interesting. So let's see that. Insert quiz, it is not this is not called from GUI. Why? Because I need to do insertion of the quiz from the GUI together with the programs, because data should be consistent. It is done internally in the DAO. Okay. So we will see it at the bottom. So let's go here. Since now I need to retrieve a list of quizzes, and this is supposed to be dynamic, because you see it's updating the screen. So list of the quizzes is retrieved as a flow. Flow in the view model. So it will update the screen when I press new quiz button. So I have a synchronization between database and the list through flow. So my view model contains flow from the database. You see, where is this? Get user quizzes flow. So I'm using user ID to get this list of quizzes. But what is displayed, it is not directly what is retrieved from the database. Because as you saw, quiz itself does not have a score in it. So I had to do data transformation on this flow. So it is original flow of quizzes plus extra data. So I have to transfer data, transform data in the flow in order to reach, before it reaches the screen. So get user quiz count flow. So it is a flow of count of quizzes for the user. Where it is used, it's right here. Okay. It shows current number of quizzes. You see it's updated to 5 because I was pressing new quiz, new quiz, new quiz. It's also not original data because I have flow data transformation, but this is where it is originated. Next, get quiz by ID flow. So it is just quiz object. It is not list of any problems in it. It is just quiz that says count and quiz ID. Okay? It is used internally because sometimes I need to retrieve quiz object based on something else. Okay. Get quiz by ID. Where is it used? In some view models, we will see. Okay. And this is what is used, how to create quiz number. You see, select maximal of quiz number from quizzes where user ID is equal to that. So it is looking for largest quiz number for current user. It is to create a number of the new quiz number. Okay. What is next? I get quiz a number for given quiz ID. So it is database query by ID to get something quiz number on the screen. Problem count from the quiz. So it's not really counting problems from the table. It is that data field column in the quiz table itself. And insert problems. Please notice that technically this part is about problem. You see, this is inserting problem entities. So it appears like, why it's not in problem DAO? Because logically, I have a quiz DAO, I have problem DAO. Data access object for problems, data access object for quizzes. It appears like it's out of the place, but it's not. Issue is this. Because if I do transaction that combine inserting problems with inserted quizzes, it has to be within the same DAO. Because it's a limitation of the system. We can do transaction of items that involves items here. In the DAO, only calls from the same DAO. So what is transaction? Transaction means we join operation of the database under the hood and we revealed this to outside world when all of them are done. So we show only consistent data. So what does it do here? Oops, sorry. I clicked something. Okay. Insert quiz with problems. You already saw that I have a consistency issue with number of problems and number of problems created. Okay, number of problems in the quiz which is shown and number of problems in the database when it is created. So I have to, this has to be done in the same transaction to have this appearance consistent. So what did I do first? First, I retrieve what is maximal quiz number right now. And this has to be consistent with the rest of it, right? Because if I click new quiz, new quiz, new quiz, new quiz, I will initiate multiple transactions, right? So after I retrieve max quiz number, I should use it to create quiz. So it has to be the same transaction. Otherwise, I may end up with two quizzes with the same quiz number. So I have to retrieve max quiz number in the same transaction as I create new quiz to have quiz number inconsistent. So it's also logic about transaction, right? So I got quiz number. So order it is just another word for quiz number. I can rename it. All right. So next, quiz ID. Where do I get quiz ID? This is a trick. I'm creating quiz for given problems. But remember that problems are listed to, problems are linked to quiz. So in order to create problem quiz entity, I have to have quiz ID already, because all these problems refer to quiz ID, right? Because I need to link them to quiz. So when I created a list of problem entities, I just generated quiz ID and inserted it into every problem entity, because I need to link this list of problems by quiz ID to quiz table. So it is the same. So I retrieved the first problem, and that problem contains quiz ID. So quiz ID of the quiz to be created is already done when I created list of problems. There's no other way. It has to stay consistent. And so next I create quiz entity. I insert quiz and insert problems, and since it's one transaction, it is done under the hood and reveal it to outside world when all of them is done. So inserted quiz, and after this inserted problems. First I have to insert quiz because it is enforced by foreign key in problems. If I flip it, it may crash, because my database restriction as a foreign key says that ID in the problem refer to quiz. So quiz should exist before I insert problems. Okay. And next is more interesting than that. I had two variants. This before and this is after. I remember that I said that I added foreign keys as extra enforcement after I did everything working. So before I added foreign key as enforcement in the database, like restriction in the database, or constraint from the database, I had to delete problems manually before I delete quiz to stay consistent. Right? So before that, I had a method delete quiz by ID, and I had a method delete problems by quiz ID, which is logical, right? When you delete quiz, you need to delete problems for the quiz. So I had a transaction that is joining two things together. To stay consistent with this transaction, wiping of problems, wiping of quiz that own it or own it those problems. Okay. And now, when I added foreign key explicitly to the database with foreign key cascade on delete, it means when I delete quiz, database will enforce deleting problems after that. So I didn't need to do this transaction after I specified foreign key cascade. So now I renamed this to delete quiz with problems, and I just delete one quiz by this. See, it is deleting just quiz. But the rest is logic. The rest of the logic is forced by the database because it was on delete foreign key cascade. It will cascade delete of the quiz into cascading deleting of problems related to the quiz. So it's definitely advanced feature. And it's not happening by default. It happens only when, say, foreign keys cascade. Delete foreign key cascade. Other database systems that has object-related mapping, similar to ROM, do have cascades for various things, and cascade update, cascade delete, cascade save. And in this case, I'm using ROM is more restricted in it in cascades because it's optimized. So it has different cascades, but I use it in this case on delete. Okay, so this is about quiz entity. Okay, next let's see about problem entity. and problem entity. Problem entity, and it also has a foreign key to quiz. So I have, again, a one-to-many relationship between quiz and problems. In order to implement a one-to-many relationship in SQL, we use foreign key, in this case in children, referring to parent. Right? So we have a foreign key of quiz in problem stable. So what do I have here? A table name problems, foreign key referring to quiz in problems table. On quiz side, it is called ID. On current side, problem entity or child side, it is called quiz ID. Okay. And I also use foreign key cascade, and this is where cascade happens. So when I delete quiz, it will cascade into deleting problems. So this is how I generate all IDs in this particular code, random UUID to string of UUID. Although it's not guaranteed to be absolutely unique, but it will never happen because probability of the same key is extremely low. And so this is how I generated all IDs in my code. Random UUID, random UUID to string. So problem ID refers to quiz ID. This is a foreign key, already mentioned there. Problem number, because when I click on this, I need to have a problem number. See problem 1, for example, right? Problem number. And it also shows in the list, this is a problem number. And now I rename it. It was A, B, and problem operator. I renamed those to first number, second number, and algebra operation. So this is first number, this is second number, and algebra operation, in this case, division. So it is this one. Correct answer, obviously, what it is, user answer. Answer status, and this is by default not answered, so other options is right answer, wrong answer, and invalid input. So it is definitely should be stored in quiz table. So it is column on the quiz table. And updated at, because this quiz is either inserted or deleted, there is no update on the quiz entry in the table. So this is why I have a column called created at. But this entry of a problem is updated because I change user answer. What happens, since problem entity is immutable class, you see val. So it is created each time before you insert it, right? So this is why when you update, you create new one, so it will call date again, so it will be time right before it is inserted. So this will be updated at data field. We could also create another column created at, but it will add extra logic because this way we'll need to do database query for the last time when it was, not the last time, but we'll need to do database query for the same ID to see when it was created in order to do transaction that will preserve it. So it is a little bit more logic. And since I'm not displaying these numbers currently in the program, so it seems like extra work for nothing. So I decided not to have created at in problems table. By the way, it should match created close to created at for the quiz, because it's done in one transaction, so it is just quite close, good enough. So it's about problem entity. It is last entity in the code. So I use the same converters. A date converter to store it as long integer, and also algebra operation converter to store it not as a string like division, multiplication, but with a string that contains only one symbol, like multiplication sign. I store this as x later, or plus sign, minus sign, something like that. So converters are stored here, for example, algebra operator converters, which is taking operation, symbol, and convert it to the string. Symbol in operation, it's character, so I need to convert to the string. So I have in domain model algebra operation. You see, I have calculated data field symbol, which is conversion from actual enumeration type to character. Okay. So this is what it is using. I think in the database part, it is mostly explained, but I didn't explain repositories yet. I explained only tables and relationship between tables here. Let's have a break. It is 12:30, so let's 12:32. Let's have a break and continue after break. Restarting after break. Before the break, we looked through entities objects. We got 3 because we have 3 tables. We looked through DAO object, data access object, and originally we start from database, object and converters. Now let's look at initialization of the database, because this is the next step. It is done inside of initialization of the database is done inside of modules. I created package called DI. Some programs do that, so I just inherited this idea from examples. So DI stands for dependency injection, and packages, modules define dependency injection. So in particular, how to create and link the objects. So in my modules, I have a database module that describes how to create the database. So you see, provide database, and it needs context. Context, in this case, application context injected by dependency injection system HILT. And what do we see here? Back to destructive migration, drop all tables. You already saw it, and it's when we change database version number, if it is different, in this case, it will drop existing tables before creating new one. The reason is that to avoid crash. It is not production, it is for development time. For production, we need to provide migration option, and this is how to take existing data and convert it to new one. When we develop program, it is just waste of time because we will go to multiple versions. And when it is production one, when you already release the data, release that application to users, users don't like to lose data, so you will have to write code to convert user data from previous version of your program to new one, if it is different storage format. This code is not here. I have a provide for quiz, problem, and user DAO, because they will be injected into repositories through dependency injection system. So all of them singleton because they related to linked to the database, and I don't need to have multiple DAOs linked to single database. Database is also singleton. What is about we didn't see this one before. Pre-populate database. So it is callback here, add callback, and it is used in this particular case. It is callback when the database is created, and I will use it to insert data. So when we run this program first time, it will insert the data by calling this callback. Okay, this callback, you see this, is now dependency of the database. Previously, we don't have it because we didn't insert data when database was initialized. Where it is pre-populate callback is provided. It is here, you see, provided pre-populate callback. It needs application context to for internal reasons. You see, it is calling pre-populate callback constructor. It is separate file. So far we didn't have it before. It is definitely new. Other things are just repetition. We had one table, now we have three. So this part is repeated. So let's look at pre-populate callback, because this is new. Pre-populate callback, I put it into the same folder for easy to find, but it can be in different place. This is definitely a new one, entry point, install in entry point. And you see, it is depending on functions from the database, database class. We didn't see this combination before. Perhaps we will see it in other cases, but this is a new way. And it is used in callback. Perhaps it's used elsewhere. So I found this in how to do it in documentation. So I have it. So this function will be called when database is created. But it will, unfortunately, I don't know if it is feature or bug. When you create version number of the database, it will not call this callback. It will just remove tables, but it will not pre-populate it. I don't know if it is the intended behavior or bug, but this is how it works. So it will not pre-populate it after you change version number. It will just remove database tables. What is the side effect if you do so? Because this pre-population will create user object, but user objects will not be created when you change version number of the database. I noticed this experimentally when I was changing version number of the database. It was dropping tables and creating them, but it didn't create call pre-populate. So it didn't create quiz one, and it didn't create user object or user entry in the table. Would it work? Yes, because this program does not rely on existence of user, surprisingly. So it did work. So what happens here? Okay. Pre-populate callback is inherited from room-based callback, and this is where it needed context. Because on create of room database, callback needs, where it's context, 1 second, where it goes? Oh, it here. It needs for an entry point needs it from application context here. Entry point. Okay. Since it is calling suspend functions, I had to do it in coroutine context and launch it as a coroutine to call suspend functions. So what do we have here? We create DAO objects. No, we retrieve DAO objects from injection system. Remember, at the top we have entry point definition, not here. Entry point definition in the separate file. And now we have access to DAO objects, so we can use DAOs to insert data into database. So it is brute force. You see, I just created 3 problems, and I call DAO insert with user quiz DAO insert quiz with problems, and this is a list of the problems to insert. So this is how we end up with quiz 1 that contains 3 problems in the database when we start the program. So mostly it is from documentation and just applied for this particular case, careful rewriting code. Definitely, it's not essential feature at all. It is just to learn that it's possible, and here's how to do it if we need to do it. We don't have to. We could start without database data, and it will work just fine. We'll add quiz 1 or get quiz. It's probably nicer just to have some quiz when program starts, just as for purpose of demo. So this is where it is just API calls to create callback to insert data into the database. What else is interesting here? A retrofit module is the same because data is coming from single quiz, and it is just called multiple times. It's called each time when you click create button if you have an option to retrieve data from the server. So there is no change except it is called not once, it is called each time when you create quiz. Oh, previously it was also called multiple times because in the previous version we replaced quiz with new quiz, right? So we didn't have quiz table, but we replaced it problems. So it was multiple times when we created new quiz button. It was new quiz button or new problems button. So in this sense, it is identical except one little thing. I remember that I changed data format on this server. So artificially now it is different because it is sending number of problems not as a variable name. It has underscores in it. In order to keep this consistent with variable naming, I need to convert it. And this conversion is extremely straightforward. So in my data section, I have a section for remote, it's remote data, and I have a remote quiz. So this is how to do conversion. This is how it receives, and this is where to put it. Please notice that on the server side, this part is different. On Android, it is serializable name. On the server side, it is something different. Let's look up how it is. And it is different because it's not using Kotlin serialization for it. It's using different library. So let's find it with this. Remote quiz. Okay. So on Android side, it is serial name, serialization name. On server side, it is field JSON property. Okay, because it's using different library to do this. So communication with the server is identical except that little change. Identically the same except that little change. What about repositories? I reorganized this repository structure to separate what is used by GUI from layers below. To easily understand code and to stay organized. So let's look at this data program organization. And again, the way how we organize code in packages or folders is not strictly a strict requirement. It is just we do common sense. And nobody says us to give package-specific name, except don't use capital letters or underscores. This is kind of good naming convention. But how to call it specifically, it's our choice. And where to put it's our choice. Just apply some common sense. If we separate business logic from UI, keep UI separate or something like that, which makes sense. So for this reason, I have UI, that is user interface. Domain contains logic used, it is business logic, used by UI. DI stuff for dependency injection, and data, it is data access layer. So currently in the domain, I have repository. Repository is related to kind of part of the business logic that is used, in this case, part of the business logic accessible by UI. I have more repositories, and the reason why I have more repositories is because logic of this program is not immediately straightforward, because I have data from the web, I have data generated locally, I have data from the database. So I have multiple repositories. But in order to stay organized, I created a repository in the domain. It's called quiz repository. How to access all quiz data, regardless where they are. It doesn't have any other things that are not necessary for the GUI to access directly. Okay? So this is to separate logic from data access layer, logic of data access layer from logic in GUI. If we have repositories specifically for manipulation of the data, but those repositories are not used by GUI directly, I kept them separate. I put them here. You see, I have another folder for repositories. So now I have two folders of repositories. A repository is used by UI, and I put them in domain, and repositories are used by data access layer using repositories from UI, this one. Accesses from repositories of UI. I'm not sure it is best practice, but why not? I saw this in examples. In examples, they create interfaces in a domain repository, and those interfaces are specifically to separate data access layers through that layer of interface. In this case, I just decided not to create extra interface for a reference repository, I want to have a shorter code. Although I could create, why not? And in this case, I will have to create module for repository called repository module, because a repository module will link interfaces to implementations of them. I decided that just for having 2 files less, 3 files less option, I decided not to create this repository. But this idea definitely helps to stay organized, is to have 2 folders or 2 packages for repositories that are not accessed directly from user interface. They stay in data repositories, and repositories accessed from user interface, in this case, not from UI directly, but from view model, but view model belongs to UI. So accessed from view models, so they live in domain repository. Alternatively, this is a nicer idea, but more code, I could create interfaces here and move these repositories here. If I create repositories instead of actual implementations and move these 2 repositories here, I would also need to have dependency injection module to link repository interfaces, these 2, with implementations there. And of course, I will have different name. So for example, instead of preference repository, I will have preference repository impl, stands for implementation. Typical name, people use it. And the same for quiz repository, I'll have quiz repository impl for implementation. Right? I saw this before, and it seems to be a reasonable idea for middle-sized projects to separate stuff this way. And model are data classes, essentially. A repository is data access classes, and model are just data classes. You see, algebra operation, algebra problem, answer status. Okay. So this is the logic that I applied. So it is for middle-sized programs, it makes sense. For larger programs than that, we need extra separation of it because it may become so long that it needs to be compiled separately. In this case, we will split program into modules, compilation modules, not dependency injection modules, but compilation modules. And this is definitely extra work, more logic, more time. My advice, learn it when you need it, essentially. Because even for your capstone, it's probably not worth your time investment. Google does provide a recommendation how to split programs into modules. There is a page on developerandroid.com, reasonably straightforward when we read it, but it's definitely more work and more setups. In particular, it is more setups for, by the way, every module will have own manifest in that case, and every module will have also our own build file. Currently, in Gradle scripts, we have global, build Gradle, and this is global, and build Gradle for app module. We have only one module here called app. If we have more modules, we'll have more Gradle files per each module. And we will have also dependency between modules, because build on one may depend on building another one. So it is also an extra setup. Currently, I don't think it's a good idea to invest time into it, because we already have a lot, and we still need to cover something more important. So next topic, large topic, is to cover accessing to cloud faster, in particular. So let's quickly look. What do we have here first? I have preference repositories to access user preferences. I didn't touch it since last time, so it is the same. This quiz repository, it's those functions of this repository. I use it by UI layer, and I made it careful so it doesn't contain things that are not used by UI layer. Everything that is not used by UI layer is moved zipper. Okay. I think a couple of them are just in gray. I probably deleted this. Okay. So what are dependencies of this repository? It depends on local problem repository. It is storage of data in local database. And again, a design of the program is made in mind that I will replace local data storage with cloud storage. So I kept all local data storage in separate repository in the idea that I will replace this repository accessing cloud. Perhaps I will have to change logic elsewhere, but I keep it together. Okay. So this is design decision. Also, local quiz repository. It's also for problems, but in local database as well, so that will be replaced. And this is to generate random problems, either locally or from server. It still stays exactly the same because it's no relation to cloud. Okay. And inside of this program, I'm calling these repositories when I need them or in combination. For example, get quiz store, I see I combining local quiz repository with local problem repository. So definitely it's optimization because number of problem count is stored in the quiz as data field, but number of right answers is calculated by local problem repository query. So you see, I'm combining these two to create quiz store. Okay. So sometimes it's just calling repository, different repositories. Sometimes it is combination. Okay. Like this, a new generated quiz. So it is called from the GUI when we click new quiz button, right? So in order to do so, we need to get a random quiz data and it is coming from random quiz repository. A random quiz repository needs to have access to user preferences for a number of problems and to decide where it's coming from, either from local or from server. So it is given to random quiz repository by dependency injection. So it is separate layer. Yeah? So random quiz repository get random quiz problems will give me just list of algebra problems. So I got it here. And I call local quiz repository, and method is insert quiz with problems that will call entity to insert this in one transaction. Okay. Or delete quiz with problems, do a similar thing, but simpler. So out of all these problems, this is the least straightforward, so let's look at that. Local quiz repository, insert quiz with problems. Local quiz repository, here it is. Insert quiz with problems. Okay. Insert with context, so it is using dispatcher as O because it is input-output. So this is where quiz ID is coming from. It is just random unique ID. See? Quiz ID. I'm asking repository give me the list of algebra problems. Before, you see, it's passed as a parameter. And now I need to convert it into problem entities because algebra problem does not have reference to quiz. So I need to create foreign keys for that. So from the line before, I have quiz ID. So I'm running loop problems with map indexed. Map is taking one list and creates new one. Map indexed. There is a map and map indexed. Map indexed provides index starting from 0 for the loop. So I'm calling entity. Quiz ID is from the top line. Order it is the same. Order it is the same as quiz number. I used to call it order, and in parts I rename it, and in this case I forgot to rename. So order index +1, it is problem number, right? Because it's a loop, so I'm numbering problems here. Index +1 is creating problem number, and user answer, since it's not answered, it's null, and status not answered. And after this, as you see, insert quiz with problems, I'm giving user ID and problem list, and you already saw this in DAO. Okay. So this is a little tedious, but it does require thinking. Okay. So I didn't rename this, but it's probably a good idea to rename this one. It is problem number, logically. It shouldn't be order. So let's do that. Rename. Problem number. And the reason is because in entity I call it problem number. So to entity, it is in data mappers. You see algebra problem to entity. I rename it this one, but in entity, it's already, no. I rename it this one, but in entity, it's already called problem number. So to stay consistent, right? So I believe this is a reasonable discussion of repositories. Next step is to see view models. View models logic is a little not trivial, so it really deserves attention because we need to combine data from multiple repositories in order to present it to the screen. So let's see how it is done. Starting from the simplest screen, in the simplest one, it is definitely home screen. So let's run it and see. So home screen shows only one piece of data. It is number of quizzes. So this is by its simplest. Other screens has more things to care about. And we have a just layout and a data from the repository. So let's open view model from the home screen. So we have UI, home, home UI state will contain only quiz count. So it is quite simple that we see on the screen. Home view model is referring to state flow, and since it's flow, it will update the screen. And we retrieve from the repository get quiz count flow. But this is flow, but in order to see it on the screen, we need to convert it to state flow, and after this, we'll convert it to state. Conversion of state flow to state is done inside of compose functions. But conversion from flow to state flow is done inside of view model. So this is state flow. I convert count from the state flow to home UI state because count coming as a number, but what I display is a state. So I convert that number into into different object, home UI state, but call constructor of it. Here it is. And state in is converting flow to state flow. Scope. Why do I need this one? Because state flow contains place to store data. Flow doesn't store data. Flow, it is just way to transfer data. So state flow contains place to store data, so it needs to populate that place by retrieving the data. And data retrieval, it is a task. It should be done in some task scope. So this is a task scope or coroutine scope. And in this case, it is view model scope, since this task of retrieving data makes sense only in view model, and view model makes sense only when we show the data or about to show. For example, we rotate the screen. For some moment, it's not showing, but we should have a fresh data. This is why it says update it within 5 seconds. After this, stop doing it. Okay. This is initial data. Initial data to populate the container, state container. View model scope is used for task scope to retrieve the data inserted into the container. And this is how long to keep this inserting when nothing is showing it. So this is the simplest part out of all. So let's, settings is the same. I didn't touch it since I explained this last time. So I'm relying on previous explanation. But it is next to that. Let's look at lists. So let's look at that. So view model for the list. And this is quiz list. So I'm going to quiz, and list is here. So first, let's see what is the state for it. I saw it in some Google examples. Maybe it's not necessary, but let's do it in general. So I decided to do it in general. When we have a list, sometimes we have a state that contains list. In some scenario, the state that contains list, it's not actual data, it is a list of states. This is what I use here. I have state of entire screen. that contains state for entire screen that contains a list of states of the items. So it's state of the screen that contains state of each item. Why? Because I have a fancy situation here. I need to show quiz number here that comes from the quiz. And I need to show quiz score next to it. So let me go back. I need to show quiz number and quiz store. They are not in a single piece of the data. So I had to create another data, which is quiz list item state, to combine these two. Sometimes we have to do that, and this is the case. So we have a state for entire screen that is using a list of states of each item in the list. We didn't see this before, and this is the first time when we use it. So where this data is coming from? It is coming from view model. So what do we have here? We have a UI state, which is quiz list UI state, so it's state of everything. And we get users flow. We are lucky that we have only one user. Otherwise, we will have to deal with user ID. So user ID is hard-coded in that repository, so it is the same all the time. Otherwise, we will have to deal with it right here. So it's a plain luck at this moment. Next, I need to convert user quizzes flow into quiz list UI state because I need to add more data. How do I do it? Quizzes map, so this is a quiz. And now I need to get the score because I'm not just displaying quiz number, I'm also displaying score. And you can do it only here. You can do it here because you can call suspend functions inside of map, but only if it is using what's called dispatchers IO. In my repository, I'm changing scope to with context dispatchers IO. It wouldn't work unless I do it in my repository with context dispatchers IO. So this way I could call suspend function that is using dispatchers IO here. So get quiz score, and now I have quiz score. And now I can, in my data transformation, I can call constructor of quiz list item UI state that combines quiz and quiz score. Okay. So this part, this map will create state list. But in order to create quiz list UI state, I need to call one more constructor. It is quiz list UI state that receive state list as a parameter. And after this, I'm creating view model. I convert flow into stateful standard way by calling state in function. Okay. I also need to deal with add new quiz. This. And in this case, it is super simple. I'm calling add new quiz function on click of the button. Please notice there is some specific that we didn't see before. What is the specific? I'm doing database transaction, but I'm not calling view model scope launch. We should, but we didn't. Why? Because it's not suspend function. But why it's not suspend function? Technically, it should take a while to insert data, right? Because it's a tricky one. Okay. This is not suspend function, but this function is wrapping call of, it is wrapping coroutine context inside. So let's see how this magic is done. Quiz repository, add new quiz generated. Okay, quiz repository, let's open this. Okay. Quiz repository. Oh, it is not here. It is in domain repository, quiz repository. Add new generated. See. External scope. External scope is here coroutine scope, and when we call constructor from dependency injection, external scope is global scope. Okay. So when we call this function, it executes coroutine. Okay, where is that? I lost it. Where is this? Here it is. In global scope. So it's not launching the task from view model in view model scope, but when we go call this function, it is launching task here. We still launched separate task, but it is launched elsewhere, one step below. This is why we don't have launch in view model, because launch is inside of this new generated quiz function. And it's not view model scope, it is global scope. Why it is global scope? One of the reasons why not, but another reason is that potentially if we click on this and go home immediately, right, there is potential that it will not finish inserting the quiz before we navigate away, because it's a separate task, right? Imagine that it is done in view model scope. I click on this, it will start generating quiz, perhaps talking to network, because a new quiz could come from network because of the settings. But before server responds, I click on this one. So task is not finished before I navigate to home. And it will be killed because your model will be discarded when we navigate to home. So in order to avoid discarding of the task, so it is finished, I created view models. I executed in global scope, not in view model scope, to preserve the task if in case I need to navigate to home before it's finished. So it's also a demo how to create global scope tasks that are not terminated when we navigate from view model. So it's also for demo purpose. So from the view model, we can launch view tasks in view model scope, or if we want, we can also do global scope. But best way to do it is to create a call function from the repository, and in the repository itself, we create a launch for the global scope. So it's a demo of global scope task, which is not local to view model. So let's continue. So this is kind of discussion is done. UI is a little just tedious. It's not. We will look into UI next. So let's go through view models today, and we will have probably time to do it because we have 10 minutes. Okay. So let's see. What is the next step in complexity? It's perhaps a list of quiz details. No, we won't finish today with that, with view models, because there are two more left. So next we kind of mix it lesson with finishing this one and some GUI of it. So this is probably the most interesting one, because this is also fancy, because we have multiple navigations for different quizzes. So let's go step by step. So next is a list of, no, not list of quizzes. And next it is quiz details. So what do we need for this part? We need to know ID of the first problem of the quiz in order to do navigation. We need to retrieve the data, right? we need to have an option to navigate to home, but it's not difficult, that one. So let's do it step by step. Going to state, a state of quiz details. So let's do quiz details UI state. For the state for the screen, I need quiz object because it contains quiz ID. I'm displaying it here, quiz 3. What else it has? It also has quiz problem count somewhere, but I'm not displaying it. So it is for the purpose of quiz ID. I also need quiz status, and quiz status, it is this part. It is result of, it is query on this part. So it is quiz status. And I also need first problem ID in order to navigate to first problem when I click on this button. Because it is navigate to, and ID is passed to navigation system to the navigation to specific location. Because every problem has address based on ID. So again, I need quiz object to display this number, or I can just create quiz number. It's probably fancy. Can I have just quiz number for that? Yeah, I can replace it with quiz number. I don't need quiz object here. I need quiz status. It is for this. And I need first problem ID to do navigation. I can replace this with quiz ID. It will probably be nicer if I do so. Let's don't do that. I will do it later. Okay. So let's look at this. How do we create this success? By the way, if there is loading in success, why on earth we need it? So this is UI state now contains two states, loading and success. Remember that we had loading when we retrieved the data from web. It is for the purpose of displaying loading screen if we wait for the data. This database is local, so we don't need this loading screen for the purpose of displaying loading, like kind of wait for the data option. It is for different purpose. The issue is that I'm using new navigation system, navigation 3, and I cannot retrieve data from the address line inside of your model anymore. Because navigation 2 gave us such option, retrieve data from the address line inside of your model. Unfortunately, navigation 3 does not give this option. So I have to go around it. And the reason, and it is the way to go around it. Since I cannot get data from inside of your model, I need to get the data from outside. And since I need to get the data from outside, I need to have some state before I receive the data. So let's talk about it. When we deal with navigation 2, we could get quiz number in this case directly from the navigation. So when we call to quiz details, it was quiz ID inside of the address line, right? And I could get quiz ID inside of your model. But in navigation 3, there is no such option. We do have quiz ID in the address line, but it is not accessible directly inside of your model. So it has to be given to view model by UI. But before it is given to view model by UI, you need to have some state. So it is for that purpose. Loading state, it is state before you receive it load command from UI. So let's see how it works. In quiz details you model, I had to do this fancy way. I have to have a function load quiz by ID. Because before I could have ID directly from the address line, and I could do database query based on ID. Not anymore. I can do database query by ID only when UI is called load quiz. But before UI load quiz, I need to have some state, so this is why I have loading state. So this is the reason. So I need to do fancy manipulation to go around it. So what would I do? So it's, again, not my stupid idea. I saw it in other examples. So this is how to do it. I create quiz ID flow, which is originally null because I don't have an ID. And it is state flow because I need to have some option to store this data. So it is state flow, mutable state flow, starting with null. It is quiz ID flow. It is the flow to store quiz ID, essentially. Why do I need flow? Because I need to combine it with another flow. And I do this with flat map latest. So here it is. See? In order to create state flow that will contain quiz details UI state, I pick quiz ID flow, which is updatable by load quiz from GUI, this one, that will insert new quiz ID into this state flow. And flat map latest will combine it with data from the database for this specific ID. You see, quiz ID is given to this function, and what happens next? When quiz ID is null, you use flow with loading. So this is how loading ends up. While we have quiz ID null. So it is manipulation how we get state loading when quiz ID is null. It is from this line. After this, when it's not null, we need to build the data. So I have two things. I'm retrieving quiz by ID from quiz repository. It will be first flow quiz. And I'm retrieving quiz status from the repository. This will be this. This is status. And I call combine. So combine is combining these two flows. Right? Flow of the quizzes and flow of status. And both flows are retrieved by quiz ID. Okay. So how combination is done? Third parameter of combined, or next parameter of the last parameter of combined, it's a lambda function that has parameters those items from those flows, quiz and quiz status. So what do I have here? I got quiz. I got quiz object. Now I can get first problem ID by calling get first problem ID on quiz repository. So it is database query on that. Okay. So I got first problem ID. It is in order to call this piece. And after I have all of this, I can call quiz details UI state, combining quiz, status, and first problem ID. Perhaps I don't need quiz, I need to check. Maybe I just need quiz ID for that. So I could simplify that interface to that. I will check. Okay. And after this, I'm converting flow to state flow by using state in function as before. And delete quiz, how how it happens. I can delete quiz only when I have quiz ID, otherwise I cannot. So quiz ID is inside of quiz ID flow. So I'm checking value, and if it's not null, I can call delete, right? When it's not null, it's called let. Let defines parameter of this lambda function with quiz ID, so I call this part. If it is null, null dot, stuff after dot is not called. This is a definition of question mark before dot. When stuff is before question mark is null, stuff after dot is not called. And let just defines this piece, which is this piece, when it's not null. Okay. When it's not null, it's question mark. So this is the quiz ID, and after this I call delete quiz with problems. So this is interesting manipulation. It looks like ugly hack, but unfortunately I didn't see better choice, and I saw this in several places. Okay. I also saw this in Marina's code when it wasn't quiz ID, it was user ID. Since she has to use user ID before retrieving data from cloud, because otherwise she cannot retrieve data because it is the to-do list by user ID, because different users have different lists. So she also used flat map latest in that manipulation. So we need to finish. It's 1:50. I didn't finish all view models. We will continue with that next time. I will look into this. Maybe it is better to store not quiz, but quiz ID, because it's more direct. I will check into UI code if I use anything else with quiz except quiz ID. Okay, so let's finish it up and done for today. It appears like next time we will continue with this program with explaining view models, and after this we will probably go into using FileStore. Either end of the next lesson or first lesson next week.